All right, guys, welcome back to another Chef Look Cooks. We are continuing along with our patron favorite series. This patron favorite actually comes from one of our employees, which, in case you guys didn't know, all of us are also patrons. We use the library all the time, and so one of our patron favorites is chicken adobo, Filipino chicken adobo. This is actually our employee's grandmother's recipe that we're using today. Really excited about it. I've had it myself a bunch of times. It's really nice. It's really easy, which is why I like it. You guys are going to see. I actually added on a mango salad or a mango salsa, really, and some garlic fried rice, just because this dish is kind of a set it and forget it dish. We're going to start off by making the sauce. We're going to cut our chicken and put it in the sauce, and then we're going to kind of just forget about it for about an hour, and it'll be done. Really beautiful dish. Lots and lots of soy sauce, lots of vinegar, lots of pepper. It's really, really intense and flavorful, but it doesn't take a lot of effort, which is why I like it. A lot of dishes that are poaching or braising chicken like this are going to have them like seared in a dish first. We're not bothering with that at all. The sauce is really where all our flavor is going to come from. We don't have to develop flavor by adding, the Maillard reaction and browning the chicken. The flavor is all going to be in the sauce, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to start with our sauce right now. I'm going to turn this on, get it hot, have it start getting hot, and I'm just going to start putting my ingredients in there. Again, I don't need this to sear my chicken, so I can just start putting things in there. I did get quite a lot of chicken because I want to make sure I have enough, so I'm tripling this recipe today. The only thing I don't have enough of, unfortunately, is black pepper. But I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to still be plenty of peppercorns for us today. So that being said, I'm going to do 9 quarter cups of soy sauce here. I think I actually need a bigger measuring cup, maybe. Might make things a little bit easier. So it's going to be 2.5 cups of soy sauce, just as a sort of heads up. This is basically our main seasoning ingredient here. Sorry, 2.25 cups of soy sauce, which is pretty much all I got, which is great. So we'll start that. We'll reserve this just in case we need it. There's a chance that this isn't soy enough, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then same with vinegar. We're doing equal parts vinegar and soy sauce. This dish is almost like, I'm going to use the other one first. This one's seasoned rice vinegar, which is totally fine. We do want to put sugar in this dish eventually anyways, but I'm going to start with the unseasoned first, because that's what the recipe usually calls for. Remove our barriers. Perfect, so that's our first cup. I think it's just going to end up using this whole thing. I might even hit it with a little bit of white vinegar. I didn't want to buy any more because I knew I had some from our last recipe from General Tso's. Yeah, that's going to be close enough. I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of white vinegar because that was a seasoned vinegar, so it's going to be a little sweeter than I like. So I want to hit something that's really, really acidic. Rice vinegar just tends to be a little bit less acidic than most vinegars, so we're really kicking it back up again to counteract. And I'm going to keep this out just in case I need it. Get in there. What else we got? We got garlic, lots of garlic. I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me peel 3 bulbs of garlic, or actually it was 4. I was about to buy 4 bulbs of garlic and I was like, wait a minute. We're using this again for rice later, so I'm just going to go through here. I'm going to pick out the ones that are bigger. Those are going to be better for the garlic later, since we're going to be peeling some, and then the other ones I'm just going to go ahead and crush and throw in there. So, and I want about half of them for the garlic fried rice later, and the rest for our sauce right now. But I would use, if you were doing the recipe as is, I would do about a bulb or more. You could do less if you want to. I don't know why you would want to, but you could do less. It is possible. It's not going to hurt the dish. You could even eliminate it entirely if you happen to be allergic. It is not necessarily an essential part of this dish. It's just really, really good. So I've got a whole nother cutting board here, and I'm just going to give these a good crush. I'm basically just trying to get their outsides punctured, so that this sauce can start to pull the flavor out of them. I don't need to do much cutting here. We're just kind of squishing them. If I was taking them out of a bulb, this would already be happening because I'd be crunching them. So we're just going to toss that in there and let it go. That's going to add its nice flavors into this broth, and then later when we're serving, they're going to be really, really well cooked and almost pickled by the broth, and they'll be, hopefully each one of you will get one little garlic clove that you can eat with your dish. All right, so sweet. We got soy sauce, vinegar, garlic. Now we're going for peppercorns. Again, this is actually less. This is probably like me a third a cup. If I was actually tripling this, I would have almost a whole cup of peppercorns. This is one of my favorite parts about this dish. We're using whole peppercorns. They're gonna cook for so long in here that they'll actually get soft and you'll be able to eat them almost like a berry. Peppercorn is a berry in the first place, but we're gonna sort of rehydrate them in this broth, and it's gonna be really fun. The first time I had this, I was like, there's pepper in here. And I ate it and it was, my brain got very, very happy. All right, so peppercorns are in there. We're gonna put some bay leaves in. Again, got a bunch of bay leaves here. So we're going for triple, so I'm gonna put 6 in and 1 for good luck. Odd numbers are always better if you can. I learned that in landscaping, actually. So I believe these are, yeah, these are each about 1.5 cups, so this should get us the 3 cups we need for the coconut milk. And I'm just trying to break, usually they separate, so I'm trying to break that like fatty separation before I open them, if possible. This one, maybe not gonna happen, but that's okay. We'll make it work. I got a whisk here so we can incorporate them. So it's quite a lot of liquid, and then we are just basically braising the chicken in that liquid once we make our tasty broth. There's a lot of different brands of coconut milk around. The one advice I can give you, I can't necessarily tell you what the best company is, but never, ever buy low-fat coconut milk. It's not a thing. They just added more water. You can do that at home. Don't buy low-fat coconut milk. It's not a real thing. There's not like special coconuts out there that have the same amount of flavor. They literally just add water to the coconut milk. So yeah, just buy normal coconut milk, mix it with extra water, which we are doing today, and you got low-fat coconut milk. It's a miracle. So yeah, just don't do it. I remember getting some when I was younger and being like, wait a minute. I like read the ingredients. There's nothing special about it. It just has less fat in it, which to me means that's less coconut. Awesome. This one open yet? This is the one that didn't separate. I'm just gonna toss it right in there. Again, this recipe is so fun because it's so easy. For me, a lot of times with coconut milk, I'm adding it towards the end of the dish because I don't want it to like break. If I'm doing like a curry, I'll add it, for like the last 10 minutes of simmering, and it'll thicken up a little bit. But we don't really care about that. We're using it for its flavor now, not its texture, because we're adding so much other liquid in here. It's not really going to matter. So we can add it nice and early and not really worry about that fat like breaking, or because we're not trying to make a creamy sauce here. We're going to reduce it later, and this fat will come back into play as it gets emulsified. But for now, we don't really care, which is really nice. You can just add it right at the beginning. You don't have to, it's again, just not a lot of thought put into this. I mean, there obviously is a lot of thought put into the recipe, but once you're actually doing it, you don't have to put a lot of effort into it. It's kind of perfect, honestly. And this is going to just be so delicious. Once it warms up, that's solidified. The coconut milk will start to break down, but I'm just going to help it along with a whisk. And it already smells absolutely amazing. This is a really good marinade as well. Again, it's got a lot of vinegar in it and a decent amount of fat, so you could just marinate in this, but we're just going to cook it in the marinade, which honestly, if you're throwing your marinades out, it's worth giving it a try. Some marinades are too vinegary. I maybe wouldn't cook in them, but this one is definitely one. And any marinade that you can like eat and it tastes good as like a sauce, try just cooking in the marinade. You could be very surprised. We're going to put some water in there. So we want water just because we added a lot of salt, like a lot of salt. And so we need to kind of cut that down a little bit. Essentially what we're doing right now is we are counteracting evaporation. So while we're cooking this, water is going to evaporate. This is going to start to reduce. We want to give it more time to reduce. So by adding water, we're giving it that extra 20 minutes that it can use to reduce. That's going to help cooking our chicken. And it's going to give us, otherwise we might run out of liquid and would be, it'd just be in a weird mess. Because we really want our chicken below the water when we're done. And it is a half cup, so I'm going to a cup and a half. And again, we're going to adjust this after we taste it. I want it to be tasty, but not overwhelmingly salty. And then some brown sugar. I didn't buy brown sugar. We have sugar in the raw, which is essentially brown sugar. It's brown sugar is just sugar that hasn't had the molasses taken out of it, so that's why it's still brown. So the sugar in the raw is essentially that. But you can, just obviously use brown sugar or maple syrup or any kind of brown sweetener. You can use white sugar if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm actually going to taste this before I put any more in because we did use that sweetened rice vinegar. So there's a chance we actually don't need to add any more sugar. And then so before we put the chicken in, I'm just going to give this a little taste and just make sure it's to my liking. At this point, I could adjust seasoning for more salty, more vinegary. I don't have any more coconut milk, but I could put more in if I wanted to. If I was making this spicy, this is where I'd be adding some spice. Generally, this dish is not spicy. The black pepper is meant to be sort of the spice of the dish. That tastes great. I do want to put a little more soy sauce in there. Just a touch. It's perfectly vinegary. No, we're not going to put it all in there. I think it's going to be too much if I do. Because this is reducing, but the flavor feels good. I can already start to taste the garlic, which is good. And we're just going to give it a little more stirring. We got it on max. And I'm going to start cutting up my chicken here. And I'm going to put that lid on so I can get that to a boil as fast as possible. Because this is going to be our big limiter, I think, for today. So I got tons of chicken. So much chicken. I'm so excited. I am using a different cutting board. As you saw, I had two. Because I don't want to have to deal with cleaning this. So this is my chicken cutting board. In general, in the cooking world, yellow means chicken. It can be anything. Blue is fish, red is red meat, green is vegetables. This is like a food safety thing that most kitchens use. Not all kitchens. If you're ever like looking in a commercial kitchen and you see a big stack of cutting boards, they're all different colors. That's why they're different colors. I don't know where this came from, but I'm really happy it showed up today because I got some chicken to cut and I got a yellow cutting board now. So these chicken thighs are just like classic chicken thigh packages, but they're on sale, which is always good. And so with these chicken thighs, usually if I was serving this like at home, I would do a full thigh per person, basically, maybe two if you're hungry. But for you guys, I'm just going to cut them in half. I think that'll be a good little sort of sample, and it'll get us to a point where everybody gets one. And then I also have plenty left for staff. This week, if the staff's eating good, considering it was one of the staff's suggestion to do this, I wanted to make sure everything was available for everyone. So these thighs are pretty big though, so I don't think anybody's going to be going home hungry. For cutting up thighs, generally when you get boneless thighs, the bone has been removed, so they're sort of butterflied like this. This is a really nice thing to start with if you want to do like a rolled out dish. You could just cut this last sort of thick piece of the thigh and roll it out completely and then stuff it with like an herb and like nut mixture, roll it up and bake them. They'll make little roulettes is what it's called. Those are really, really tasty. But the reason I'm talking about this is when you're cutting this up, if you want like even parts, you can make it really messy by going a long way, or you can cut it the other way. And so this part, there's always a thick part to the thigh. That's like where the actual thigh is. And then the other part's the under piece. So I generally want to go a little bit up from like what would be the center line because this part just has more meat on it. So that's going to get us a decent shot at about half and half. And it's, it's going to be close enough that we're not going to worry too much about it. But you don't want to just like take it out and cut it in half. You'll end up with weird sized pieces. Again, if you're trying to go for half. They missed the bone. So I like to splay it out like this, sort of see where it's thick, and then make a cut just a little bit off that sort of center cut line. Most of the time when you're cutting chicken, you want to go along the lines that it gives you. Those are going to separate from muscle groups. Like if I wanted to separate the under muscle from the actual thigh muscle, I would cut along this line. I might want to do that if I was doing like a really fancy thigh, and I just wanted like this nice like shiny top, and then this I'd maybe use for like a fried dish or something like that. But we're not worrying about fancy right now, so we're just worrying about equal portions. But that's a good sort of like thought process to go through if you are trying to like make something present really well. You want to get these nice like whole muscles if you can. This is kind of like the thigh version of the chicken breast essentially, and this is the tenderloin, I guess. So this one has a piece of the breast actually on it, it looks like, which is nice. So I'm going to be cut a little bit further back on this one just to make them as even as possible. And I'm just going to go right on through these real fast now. We're going to toss that in there. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it's meat, but it's not part of a thigh. And again, I'm keeping this super simple because that is the way the recipe calls it. It would normally just be doing whole thighs in this situation, and that would be kind of perfect. You just serve that whole thigh right on top of some of the rice with some of the mango salsa on top, and it's perfect. Ooh, this is a big one. Let's go right about there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If anybody feels like they get a small piece later, you let me know. I'll get you another one. Nobody's leaving here today hungry. That's the idea. Or at least you're going to be much more prepared for dinner. A little appetizer, as it were. Appetizer. I always like when things are on sale. It kind of like lets me feed you guys more. I'm always trying to like make things not only easy to cook, but accessible. I mean, I'm feeding potentially, I think it's 24 of you today. I'm feeding 24 of you for about $3 a person, which like always just feels kind of amazing. I'm a big fan of that. Cooking should be, I'm just gonna toss that one in whole, that's tiny. Cooking should be a lot of fun, but it shouldn't break the bank. Like, you're supposed to be able to cook at home and save money, right? That's kind of the idea. And so a lot of times, really fancy recipes will call for really fancy ingredients. But I'm trying to always use like the most basic, simple thing I can find. And you can always upgrade these by, like, you know, going organic if you want to, or, you know, for this chicken you can go down the road and get some from the farm, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. It'll probably be a lot better than what we made today. You know, you could make your own soy sauce. You could make your own vinegar. You can do all these things, or buy them from local producers. I have at my house right now some really nice apple cider vinegar from the farm, and I usually just use it for salads because I want that flavor to come out. But if I used it in this, I bet it would make a really good dish. So, you know, use what ingredients you want, what you can afford, what makes sense to you, what you have, honestly. You know, if you don't have rice vinegar, use white vinegar. It's not going to be the end of the world. Just put a little extra sugar in there to sort of balance it out. Similarly, you know, soy sauce, if maybe you can't have wheat, you can use tamari. It's more expensive. Or if you don't want to deal with that, you know, Bragg's liquid aminos is pretty good as well. And it's, you know, as far as cost is concerned, it's a lot cheaper than tamari, even though it is a more premium product. So I got a boil here, which is exactly what I was hoping was going to happen while I was cutting that chicken. And now I'm just going to put all my chicken in there all at once. Let's go. And the hope is when I'm done with this, we have just a little bit of a liquid top. So I might stop if we run out of space, but I don't think we're going to run out of space. Yeah, buddy. Literally the easiest recipe I've ever done. It's so cool.
Chris, can you do this in a slow cooker?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, 100%. The biggest thing that you would run into if you were doing this in a slow cooker is your chicken would like turn to shreds, right? Because it's going to cook. So you'd want to really control how long it's in the slow cooker for, because we're cooking this chicken today for 50 minutes maximum, right, at a low temperature, which for thighs usually means they're going to stay together. But if I was slow cooking it for maybe 3 hours, I might end up with like you know, taco meat adobo, which would be perfectly fine. But when you go to eat it, it's just going to have a different texture in your mouth. These should still have a good amount of bite to them. Like, you'll be able to cut them, but you'll also be able to pull them apart with your fork if you want to. For me, at least, whenever I slow cook, and it could just be my slow cooker, my meat is always just not paste, but it's like, it's kind of obliterated by the end. But if you have a much better slow cooker than me, which you probably do, because I think mine's like from before I moved out of my parents' house, you might be able to set the setting a lot better and end up with a much better product. So, so yeah, definitely try it in a slow cooker. It's not going to hurt it, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, which is already, like, for a dish that's already pretty easy. Making it even easier is just going to make your whole day better. So then all you have to do is come home. The salsa could be done from earlier, or maybe you just bought some salsa, and all you got to do is fry some rice, and you're dinner time. So I'm just going to sanitize my station. I did put the lid back on because I do want this to come to a simmer, and then once it starts simmering, I'm going to just crack the lid a little bit, and that's so that we can get some evaporation. We want that cup and a half of water that we put in there to get out of here. I'm going to wash my knife. I didn't spill too much chicken, which is nice. Okay, and then I need something to clean up the table. This room is going to start smelling really good once it gets to a simmer. It's going to just be like this whole time you're going to be like, all right, can we eat yet? Can we eat yet? Okay, perfect. Let's get my veggie cutting board in here. Let's get ready for our next steps. So I did pre-cook some rice. I think this is actually probably cool now. I pre-cooked some rice today. I did do basmati, but I cooked it in my rice cooker because I stink at cooking rice. I think I've had this conversation with you guys before. I just can't cook rice on the stovetop. I don't know what is wrong with me. You think I'd be good at it at this point, but I'm just not. Something about my stove or my cooking style. Every time I cook rice on the stovetop, I either get like a scorched bottom or my top isn't cooked. And I know I can do better, but I just bought a rice cooker. Now I don't have to worry about it. So I cooked 2 4-cup batches. So we've got tons of rice today. We're not going to run out. And then I cooled it. You want a nice like shallow pan like this. You can use a sheet pan as well. And you want to spread it out really nice. And then stir it pretty regularly to cool it, bring it back to room temperature. Or you can do it in the fridge if you want to. Most fried rice dishes are going to do best if you have like day-old rice or rice that's been in the fridge. Refrigerators tend to sort of dehydrate the rice. They take a little bit of the moisture out of the outside, which is going to make them get crispy a lot faster. But you know, we did our best for today. I did cook this today, but it's fairly dry. And we do use basmati because it has a lot of surface area. So it's nice and long. So it works a lot better for fried rice where you're trying to get that oil to make contact with the rice and add that flavor. For us today, we're going to be making sort of a garlic oil to go with it. So basmati is what we're using. It also is just a really tasty rice. But for fried rice in general, I wouldn't use something like a medium grain if you can help it, or a short grain like sushi. It will work, but they tend to have less starch, and we really want that starch to help make them crispy. I'm not sure how crispy we're going to be able to get it today, but we are going to at least get it to taste garlicky, which is what we're looking for. And that long grain is going to really help with that. All right, so sweet. We're going to jump right into our next thing as we just sort of wait for this to come up. I got it on max, so we're just going to hang. So next thing we're going to make is our ensalada manga, ensaladang manga, which is basically mango salsa. Salsa also being a derivative word meaning sauce, right? So like it's mango sauce, but we are going to make it. It's a really classic thing to have with this dish specifically, and it's actually something that you've probably seen before. You know, if you had a mango salsa, this is a pretty normal recipe that you might find, anywhere in America, South America, Central America. But we're gonna make it a little special today. I've got a lot of lime, and I am gonna put the lime zest in there, which I really like. Big fan of that. For something like this, where we're gonna be serving it really quickly, lime zest sometimes can get a little bit bitter if you let it sit overnight, and those oils have a chance to really solidify. But if we're not gonna put this in the fridge, we're gonna leave it out on the counter. So those oils won't have a chance to sort of do that. They're just gonna add a really nice sort of flavor bite. So I'm gonna wash the rinds of these so that we don't have to deal with any pesticides or whatever might be on them, just because I am planning on using those rinds, the zest. And we're gonna just get jumping in here. I'm just gonna take this one. We're just gonna start cutting it up. So I have mangoes in the freezer. I'm gonna add those last. So we're just gonna start with everything else. I've got a red onion. It asks for half a medium. I'm doing maybe like 1.5 times this recipe, so I'm just gonna use this whole thing. I want this fairly small diced. You could put big chunks in here if you really like onion, but I just want the flavor more than anything else. Is anybody allergic, by the way? Great, awesome. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the top end. That's where the flour would normally be. I'm gonna leave the root end because I'm going for a small dice on this. So the root's gonna help when I get to cutting it for the dice. If I was cutting larger chunks or sauteing this or doing strips, I would cut the root off as well because it makes it easier to peel. But for this, I want that root on there because it's going to hold all these layers together. They all come together at that root. So this little root bulb is going to help me hold this while I cut it all sorts of different ways to get a nice dice. When you cut an onion right, it basically comes off of the onion perfectly diced. That outside layer is thick, and I want to keep it, but that's kind of awkward for a salsa, so I'm not going to keep it. If I was cooking it, I probably would keep that outside layer, but I don't want anything like kind of dry and weird in my salsa, so that's okay. I was actually thinking about maybe not using all of this anyways, and now I have good reason to use the whole thing. We took our large onion and made it medium. Alright, get all that crispy skin out of here. So, we're just going to go over dicing an onion. I've done this a bunch of times, but it's always good to go over it again. So onion's a bunch of rings. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the rings this way towards the root, and that's going to cut up mainly this side part here, which is kind of hard to get to with your knife. And then we're going to go down from the top, and that's going to cut all of those rings into cubes. And then we essentially have a diced onion, but it's all long. So we just need to cut it one more time this way, and it'll come right off diced. So when you're doing this, you want to hold your fingers far away, but you want to use the palm for pressure. Bring it up to the edge of the table so you can get below the plane of the table with your hand. Like put your knife right on the edge. And then you're just going to go through, but not all the way through. And so the smaller we do this dice, the name changes. You start with a chop, then a dice, and then you get to a brunoise, which is essentially as tiny as you can cut this thing. Go as small as you want. But we want probably like a dice, which tends to be about, I think, 2 millimeters or something like that, or half a centimeter. It is a small, but still big enough that you can see it and crunch on it, whereas a brunoise would basically like sort of disappear into whatever we put it in. So now that we've gone that way, We're going to go straight up and down here. And again, we're not cutting all the way to the root. We're purposely leaving connections so this doesn't go anywhere. And then finally, we're going to cut the other way, and this is just going to come right off in a nice dice, which is exactly what we want. It feels like magic the first time I did this. And you can use this cutting technique on anything that's round. So this works on cabbage. This works on, I don't know why you want an orange popped into my head. I don't know why you want to dice an orange, but it works on pretty much anything you can think of that has this same sort of round nature. Fennel works really well on as well. In general, if you have some sort of like solid piece, like a root bulb that you can use to your advantage, you should. But not all things have that, so you kind of have to sort of work with what you got. Let's see, how you doing over here, buddy? I know I just put a bunch of chicken in there, but... Stirring spoon. Yeah, it's starting to cook. That's good, though. It doesn't take that long, which is one of the best parts about this. It's just a matter of sort of getting it up to temperature and then letting it just sort of hang out. Get in there. Beautiful. It's starting to steam already, which is good. That's telling me that it's getting close to boil. All right, so we're just going to do that again for this piece. And then sideways this way. And finish the dice. And I got a couple pieces that fell off, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it had to be perfect, then we wouldn't be just hanging out at home, you know?
Where do you sharpen your knives?
This knife has never been sharpened since I started using it. I have a honing blade at home. But I don't generally sharpen my knives. I have some home knives. All my like professional knives are put away in a drawer, and I don't really touch them anymore, which is fine. They're all really nice knives, but they require way too much maintenance. So I like getting a really hard steel knife that's thin and cheap. And if my knife gets, I could sharpen this and I hone it pretty regularly. When the knife gets to the point where it just is unwieldy, I will take it to get sharpened, but it feels weird sharpening like a $12 knife. I'm not going to say don't do it, like please do it. And a lot of sharpening services aren't that expensive in the first place. And I don't want to like waste a knife, but I'll use a $12 knife for 10 years. Because I'm usually not cutting things that really care, at least not at home. Like if I need to cut something that cares, I'll whip out my really good knife and I'll use it just for that. I have like one knife that I use for boning out chicken. That's pretty much the only one I sharpen anymore. But most of the time a honing blade with a really hard steel like this will last for a really long time because your blade's not getting messed up. Most professional knives are actually softer steel on purpose so that you can get a really honed blade and it's not as much work, but then they end up getting chipped and bent easier, so you're sharpening them all the time. That being said, I do think that Eggertown Hardware might sharpen knives. I think he stroops them, which is really fun. He uses leather instead. Not positive. That's not an official endorsement or anything, but I do think that is an on-island service where you can get your knives sharpened. So just a good place to check out if you are interested. So I am worried that this might be too much onion, so I'm just going to put about half in for now, and we'll see how much we get when we have all the mango and the tomato in there. Just to be sure, the last thing I want to do is just like blow your taste buds out with onion when I'm really trying to get you to taste the adobo. So, and if we do have any extra onion, what I'll do is when we're reducing the sauce later, I'll put it in there and it'll cook with the sauce. It'll be great. Add some nice flavor. So, okay, next step is tomato, and then we'll do cilantro and scallions, and then go ahead and get our mango in there. So these are really nice tomatoes for winter time. It's really hard in winter to get a tomato that I'm ever really happy with per se. The recipe calls for plum tomatoes, and if it was summertime I would be getting some plum tomatoes for sure, but the plum tomatoes right now are just they're sad. Most of the time you get them and they're mealy, and for salsa we really don't want that. The recipe calls for 2 plum tomatoes. Again, we're kind of tripling this, so like I would say 2 of these is about a plum tomato. So there's our first one, there's our second one, and then 1.5. So I'm just gonna use the whole thing of tomatoes. Again, it's a mango salsa, and I have a good amount of mango, but I think this is gonna work just fine. This little part here on the tomato, some people will like take the time to cut it out. When I'm cooking at home, I just incorporate it. It's a little fibrous, but like it's not gonna kill you. And in general, with all veggies, and you guys have heard me say this before if you've been to my classes, the connection points, the skins, that's where all the vitamins are. This is where this tomato was receiving nutrients from the plant, which means if you eat it, you're also going to get as many nutrients as possible. The tomato itself has plenty, but this connective tissue tends to be where some of the highest concentration is. I'm just going to cut this out just to show you the technique that I like to use for that. But again, I would say normally at home I don't bother. So you just want to use the tip of the knife, and you can use a paring knife if you have one. Most of the knives that I really like to use are multi-purpose knives like this. They have a flat portion where you can chop. They have a curved portion where you can rock, and then they have a really nice, decently small tip where you can essentially treat this as a paring knife. In knife culture, in kitchens, there is a particular knife that is essentially like the perfect knife for the head chef, and it essentially has all three parts like that. It's about 4 inches longer than this. It's got a very short knife here, which is perfectly flat. This one you can see has a little bit of an angle. And then the tip is a beautiful curve that goes to the tiniest little point. And the reason that the head chef gets that is that the head chef is expected to work every station. And so if he needs to be chopping vegetables, he can do that with his knife. If he needs to be boning out chicken, he can do that with his knife. If he needs to be taking out the root end of a tomato, he can do that. And so the head chef is sort of a knife of station, if you will. Whereas the chef at the garden station or garde-manger will just have his flat knife because he's only cutting vegetables. The chef at the meat station will just have his meat knife because he's cutting meat. The head chef gets everything. He gets everything in one knife. So not because I'm the head chef or anything, but because I'm a big guy and I needed a long knife anyways. I bought one of those. My first really fancy kitchen job, the head chef came in and he's like, trying to take my spot? Needless to say, the shape of the knife is sort of what I'm getting at. It tends to determine its purpose. And so a utility knife that has all three shapes in one is a great purchase to make for at home as well. That way you don't have to keep reaching for knives, and more importantly, you have to do less dishes. Nobody likes to do dishes. I mean, some people like to do dishes. Please come over to my house anytime you want. I'll cook you dinner. They don't exist. They're few and far between, but I know there are people that like to do them. All right, cool. So we got those out of there. Another thing I like about these tomatoes is there's just not a lot of that root end in the first place. When you buy like big field tomatoes from the farm or something, the bulb tends to go pretty deep because those things have been like dealing with a lot of stresses, and so they don't want to fall off, so they're really holding on. These are all grown in a greenhouse, and they don't have wind. They don't have to really deal with anything. So there's not a lot of attachment to the vine. But the ones that we have that we'll buy here, it grows deeper. It's where the flower was originally, and I forget what it's called, but that grows deeper into the fruit to make sure that it doesn't fall off when it's incorporated with lots of outside things. So we're just going to go ahead and dice these up. I want the dice to be a little bit bigger than my dice for the onions because this is something that I want you to taste. I want you to sort of interact with your mouth, but it'll be probably smaller than what I cut for the mango. So it'll be mango biggest, then tomato, then onion, and then herbs, essentially as far as size. So the smaller it is, the more geared we are towards flavor. The bigger it is, the more geared we are towards texture and sort of that main thing. The first thing you're going to taste is going to be the biggest thing, and then everything else is going to start incorporating. So again, that's what I'm going for. We're going to see how it goes. This is not the perfect knife for cutting tomatoes, but it's just sharp enough, which is great. Makes my life easy here. But I'll show you a technique for cutting tomatoes if you have a really bad knife, like a really knife that is just not sharp at all. Serrated knives actually work really good if you have a bread knife that has an offset handle, so you're not jamming your knuckles into the cutting board. That can work really well for tomatoes. The big problem with that is that you have to saw, so you're going to leave a lot of marks on your cutting board, which for like a soft plastic cutting board like this isn't that best. But just so you know, if you ever have like a really crappy knife and you just don't have any other options, you can always cut a tomato, no matter what, or anything that has sort of like a soft skin. You just use the tip of the knife to make little gashes like this. And then once the gashes are made, you can come right back in and it just slices right through with like no effort. So this works really good, mainly for tomatoes, but it will work for anything that has like a thin skin that you don't want to peel off. And so I'm just cutting these into some decently thick strips, and then I'm cutting them in half, and then kind of squishing the halves to turn them into sort of logs, as it were. And I am probably losing more liquid than I would normally here because I don't have the perfect knife, but I'm okay with that. Come on, little pot, you can do it. I want this thing to get to a simmer before I finish the the salsa so that I can move it over to the other side and start making our fried rice. But we'll see how it goes. We might have to have a Q&A session while we wait for the sauce to reduce, but I think that'll be fine. So this is a dish that this is the first time I've cooked it, which is kind of a tradition on this show. I tend not to like practice cook my dishes. Some things I've made millions of times, especially when we were doing the my favorite series. But for this, it's a recipe that was given to me, something I've eaten with my friend before, and so I was really excited to be able to sort of make it and see how they like it. I'm going to serve some to them later, and we'll see how I did. But I have a feeling, just based off of how this is smelling, that it's going to be really good. But with that being said, it's a dish that I don't feel as comfortable experimenting with. Most dishes I have a lot of sort of like freedom with. I can kind of do whatever I want. But this dish is so simple that it's not that it doesn't leave room for experimentation, it's that it almost feels like I don't feel safe experimenting. If I was going to do something for this, I might put some like chili peppers in there, to kind of make it a little spicy. But after this, long of a cook time with the chicken, that could really work sort of counterproductively with the vinegar that's in there. I might end up with something that tastes more like a hot sauce than it does like adobo. And especially this dish, it's been a tradition for so long in this manner. Skip just read in the newspaper that somebody else was already cooking it, and I bet that recipe is almost the exact same as this one. Like, if we looked at it, I have a feeling it would be fairly similar. It's a recipe that's already been tested and already been experimented with. So I'm more hesitant with this one to sort of play around with it and try and make something that's more unique in myself. And it's also just because it's a perfect recipe just the way it is, like it looks good, it tastes good. I've eaten it before, so I know it tastes good. And I'm just going to put all this in here, sauce, juice included. I'm less concerned about over tomatoing this salsa as I am about over onioning it. That's looking good already. So I think this is where the fun comes in, though, is with the fried rice and the salsa. This is somewhere I could experiment with forever. The types of herbs we put in here could change. The ingredients themselves, we're using tomato, but we could easily start using some tomatillos in here. We're using green onions and cilantro, but there's nothing stopping you from going for like a more earthy flavor with some parsley or some dill even could be fun. These are the classic flavors for the Ensaladang mangga, but it's not going to hurt to experiment with a salsa. Salsa is, I think, by its sort of nature, an experimental dish. It's kind of what you have around the house. Cilantro is going to help a lot with adding, sort of connecting to the sweetness of the sauce here. Some of you guys are allergic to cilantro, right? Yeah, okay, cool.
Not allergic,
it tastes horrible, right? Sweet. So I am going to put the cilantro on the side. It even says in the recipe, or did I put it in there? Yeah. It says in the recipe you can put them to the side to sprinkle on top. So that's what we're going to do with the cilantro. It's not essential. So in this dish, we're not going to use the stems, but don't throw away your cilantro stems. They're delicious. If I was cooking this, for instance, which, just a spoiler alert, in the future we are going to be using some cooked cilantro with a bunch of different meats. I would chop this up and I would just throw it right in the saute. It's going to get soft. It smells amazing. I think, honestly, the greens are great and all, but the stems are some of my favorite part of cilantro. They're kind of crispy. It's like celery, but it tastes like cilantro, which for me is like, yeah, I don't mind celery. It's pretty tasty. But cilantro is probably my favorite herb in existence. But we're not going to use them today. Oh, I got to simmer. Yes! This is what I've been waiting for. This is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and just set a timer now just to make sure we get this timed out correctly. These pieces of chicken are looking really good. And they've only been in there for now like maybe 10 minutes or so. They're already starting to take on that brown color. By the end of this, they're going to be like dark. It's going to be great. Okay, perfect. Get back in there. I just need to get a bigger spoon. That's what I need to do. I really want to get some of the chicken from the bottom up towards the top so it doesn't cook too hard. it stays on the bottom the whole time, it might like stick or something like that, or it might just like overcook, which would be kind of sad. I think in general, chicken thighs are really one of the main reasons why we use thighs in this dish is that they're pretty hard to like overcook. You can definitely undercook them, but chicken cooks pretty quick. But they're very, very hard to overcook, which is perfect. Exactly what we want, because we are trying to get them as infused with flavor as possible. So great. I'm just going to leave that on there covered, just a little bit uncovered now, as it continues to simmer. It is still simmering. It is still simmering. Lovely. Let's actually get that side. Come on. Perfect. Great. Okay. And we're going to go back to cutting this. So I'm going to cut the cilantro up, and we'll put that on the side. You guys will be able to sprinkle it on top when we're done. And I'll put the green onions right in there, because they're going to be tasty. So I just sort of folded I should have said that when I did it. I folded the leaves back under. If I was putting the stems in there, I would fold the stems over the top of the bunch, and that would kind of act as a cage to hold all the leaves together. And then I sort of I can do a really nice fine chop right off the bat. I did cut the stems off for this one though, so I don't have as much of a cage, which means they're going to kind of explode a bit. But that's totally okay. I'm just cutting through one way, and I'm just going to kind of turn the whole pile, bunch it up again, and then cut through the other way. And that should be good enough for cilantro. Cilantro is pretty soft-bodied, so you don't have to like chop it super small for it to be palatable. Something like thyme or parsley. Parsley's pretty soft-bodied too, but its flavor isn't soft. Like if that makes sense to you guys, cilantro's flavor is like fairly soft on the palate, so I don't mind having a big leaf of it. A big leaf of parsley in my face can be kind of overwhelming sometimes, so you generally want to go a little bit smaller on the chop, so it sort of blends in more. But this is going to be just fine, and that'll go great on top of the rice for those of you who like cilantro. I absolutely love cilantro. All right, and I'm just gonna wash this off so we don't get any of those oils into the dish. Last thing I want is for your salsa to taste like soap. Okay, great. Sweet. So because this is so much chicken, I have it on full blast and it's still simmering. Normally this one I'd turn it down a little bit, but I don't want to lose any temperature on this, so I'm going to keep it pretty high. I might just see if I can keep that same simmer on this side, just to see, because that's where it's going to end up anyway, so I want to make sure I can keep it there. Good. Okay, cool. We're going to be able to let it cook over there. We're limited obviously by our only 2 burners, but we're going to need this big burner for the fried rice. It's going to be important. So freeing it up so we can start to cook. Yeah, that's looking great. Awesome. Okay, cool. So green onions, recipe calls for 3. I just got 1 bunch. I think that's going to be enough. We have some red onion, probably maybe even too much red onion. So I think it'll sort of balance out. The main thing we want this for is the green color. The flavor is going to be nice. It's going to be a little bit more mild of an onion flavor, but the greens are really what we're looking for. So we'll have that nice orange and red and pink and white and green, and it'll all just look really amazing at the end. So, whoop, I didn't get that root. Get over here. So we're just going to cut the white part as thin as possible. If you wanted to, you could like slice them down the middle first, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to cut it as thin as possible. And then the greens we'll cut a little bit bigger so we get some more visibility in there once we get to them. So I just have my thumb here holding down. It's behind my fingers, and my fingers are acting as a guard for my knife. It's something I do sort of instinctually, but you may see my thumb sort of sneaking forward. It knows where to be. I'm not going to say it, but it's been a good long time since I've had to worry about it. I tend to even I'll watch myself cutting sometimes and be like, "What are you doing?" And then my thumb gets out of the way. It's like, it's fine, I'm fine. But it's one of those things that with experience you just sort of get into a groove. My hand just goes into like a natural sort of claw grip anytime I pick anything up nowadays. And we're just going right to the end there. Okay, I should probably check the recipe before. Let's see, I got mangoes in the freezer, I got red onion in there, I got tomatoes in there, fish sauce, yeah. This is my favorite part of this salsa. This is what separates it from everything else in the world. We got lime juice, which I'm doing, scallions. So I just need scallions and fish sauce. Awesome. So scallions are going to go in there. And then we are going to start on these limes. So I have 3 limes. Recipe calls for a tablespoon of lime juice, 2 tablespoons. So I'm hoping to get about a tablespoon. I got some really big limes, so I think I'm going to use the ones that have the best skin first. We'll save that guy for later. I got my microplane, which some of you guys have now purchased, I think, because of this. It's one of my favorite tools. I don't know what I got on there. Oh, that's the coconut milk. So there's a small cut and a big cut. Big cut's great for things like carrots, anything else you want to sort of shred. But the small cut's really good for zesting. A lot of people see the microplane and think I'm going to go like this. And it will work like that, but for me, I like to pull it. So especially for zest, I use it and I pull it towards myself like this. And you just sort of go down the edge. And then the little edges collect all the zest. Oh my god, it smells so good. Whew, I love lime zest is one of my favorite things. Anytime I see fish sauce in a recipe, I immediately think about adding lime zest. The very intense flavor of the fish sauce goes really well from the bitterness and acidity that comes along with lime zest and juice. So if this recipe just called for lime juice, I might not be putting the zest in there. But specifically with the fish sauce, it makes me go, let's put zest in there as well. The fish sauce is so very intense with its flavor that the bitterness of the zest really helps to sort of balance that out and not overwhelm you with the sauce. And we're not putting a lot of fish sauce in there, but fish sauce goes a long way. It's really salty. It's got a very intense, what they call umami flavor. Good, it's still simmering. I didn't set my timer, but let's see. Cool, we'll take that out at 3 o'clock even. That should be perfect.
What exactly is fish sauce?
Oh, great question. So, fish sauce is a fermented product. Usually, you're getting it out of Thailand nowadays. It's a sauce that goes in a whole bunch of their food over there, from papaya salad, which is sort of similar to this, honestly, to like all sorts of different things. So this is the one I've got. This one has anchovy extract, sea salt, and sugar. So it is usually anchovies, but it can be anything from crabs to other sort of fishy. Usually it's a fairly fatty, oily fish, something like a mackerel, and they just mix it all together, let it ferment, and then they sort of take off the scum, and it's basically soy sauce but made with fish, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's absolutely insane. It smells wild. It smells like you're like, I shouldn't eat that, and then you taste it and you're like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my entire life. Again, that's my personal opinion. You're going to get a chance to try what it tastes like with the salsa today. It is so good. It has a lot of, again, what we call umami, which is a flavor that most chefs are trying to go for all the time. The reason why we sear off our meat and try and get that browning technique is for umami. The reason why we, brown our onions in a pan for soup, again, is umami. We're trying to get that umami, and so that's just pure that flavor all in one spot. It smells fishy, but it doesn't really taste fishy. It just tastes good. And it's incredibly salty, which is really nice because you can use it. In this situation, I'm not salting this. I'm using the fish sauce as my salt. You could salt it if you wanted to, but you don't have to. So I'm just kind of eyeballing the lime juice here. It's about a tablespoon right there. So yeah, I think I won't have to use the last lime, but we'll take a peek. We'll give it a taste, and we'll see how it is. Oh yeah, baby. Before I put this next one in, I'm going to stir the chicken one more time. It's looking good. The chicken's getting smaller. It's starting to release its moisture into the sauce, which is good. That's exactly what we want. It's getting easier for me to stir too, which is nice. Okay, back to limes. If you have like a lime juicer, if you have a citrus juicer at home, it's the best thing. If you haven't gotten one already, we don't have one here at the library. but they're really awesome. They're like these little like, I don't even know, it's like a,
Like a big garlic.
yeah, it's like a big garlic press, exactly. So one thing that I will mention about them, if you do have one at home and you may have been using it wrong this entire time, I learned how to use one from a bartender back when I used to go to bars more often. But the little thing, it has like a little pointy part, right, that looks like what is called a reamer, right, that you'd normally use. And so my brain thought, okay, I use the pointy part like a reamer, and so I'd put it in the little cup with the pistules facing up, and then the reamer squeezes down into it, right? That works okay for juicing, but then when you open the juicer, like it's stuck to the thing, you got to pull it off. It's a pain in the butt. So I'm watching a bartender once. They put it in the other way. They put the flat part towards the cup, and then the thing pushes it inside out like that. It works like a charm. Some of you guys might have already done that. I didn't do that. For like years, I was using that thing wrong. And I see a bartender do it, I'm like, wow, that's a lot more juice than I'm getting. And so I wasted a lot of juice in my youth, but not anymore. And now you don't have to waste juice either, and nobody else on YouTube can learn as well. So that was a fun moment of seeing an expert at work and being, oh, I'm bringing that in to my life. All right, so there's our lime juice. We're gonna go in with the fish sauce, give it a little stir, and then it's mango time, baby. And so the mango is frozen. I'm gonna take it out now just so it's a little bit easier to work with. I just bought like plastic mango chunks from the store. When it's frozen, it's a lot easier to cut. So don't let this thaw before. It's going to be slippery. It's going to go all over the place. When it's frozen, it's really easy to cut, and it thaws super fast. So that's why I'm waiting to do it until now. It's going to keep our salsa kind of cold, right up into the point where it comes to eat it. So, all right. So lime juice is in there. Teaspoon of fish sauce, just a tiny bit. I actually didn't even take out my teaspoon. That's how. I was gonna eyeball, but I probably shouldn't for those of you who may be first-time fish saucers. Where is my teaspoon? Maybe that's why I didn't grab it out. Uh-oh. Where did you go with the spoon? I don't even have a tablespoon. Oh, there we go. Haha. Okay, so a teaspoon of fish sauce. Let's shake it up first, just in case. Let's say teaspoon, right? Yeah, teaspoon. So again, we're doing 1.5. So 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoon, half a teaspoon. And that's going to be plenty. This stuff is intense. Okay, great. Let's get our mango in there. Still think I'm going to put a little bit of more onion in there, just from what I'm looking at right now. I think that's going to be all I'm going to put in. So I'm just going to dump my mango out. This is going to make it a lot easier to cut. If I'm like going into the bag every single time, whenever you're doing a repetitive motion, you want to do as little motion as possible. So putting my hand in the bag, taking a piece out, cutting it, putting my hand in, it's going to take forever. If I don't have to do that, if I can just go laterally with my hand, it's going to save me a lot of time. It's going to save you guys a lot of time. You don't have to watch me cut mango forever. So I'm just cutting these 3 times each, and some of them I'm going to hopefully be able to cut in like a sort of tandem. When they're small like this, I'm just going to cut them in half. And we're just going for a piece that is a little bit bigger than the pieces of tomato I have in there, which is going to be pretty easy. Let's see if I can get some, if I can kind of spread them out. Yeah, we'll start lining up some of the ones that are the same size. I can cut them all at once, which will be nice. Cutting frozen mango is such a great, pleasurable experience. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to do this before, but it's frozen, which is cool, but because of all the sugars in there, it never really gets hard. It's just like very, very simple. It's like cutting ice cream, kind of, which, obviously you don't cut ice cream, but if you could cut ice cream, I think this is what it would feel like. It's a really, really fabulous experience. Can't recommend it enough. Obviously, when they're cubed like this, they're a little bit more of a pain to deal with, but if you get, if you freeze your own whole mango, it's a lot easier to do, and it's also just really fun. And frozen mango also is delicious. I worked in a restaurant that used a lot of mango in its dishes, and every time I was in the freezer, I would grab a little bit of mango. And don't tell my chefs. It's okay, I don't work there anymore. But yeah, it's such a nice day, especially on a hot day when you're just like in the kitchen, have a little bit of frozen mango. You're already sort of taking a break in the freezer in the first place. So, all right, let's get this out of our way. I'm realizing I probably could have used some more mango, but it's going to be fine. It's going to add us some good flavor, at least, even if it doesn't end up being the main part of the dish. Yeah, mango's nice because of the texture. It's got almost like a meaty texture. So mango's going to be better because of the texture specifically, but pineapple will work just fine for flavor. I mean, you could add pineapple too if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and take the chicken out. Where are my tongs? And we're going to just turn this thing onto a hard boil and just let it start to... That's a good sign. Did you see that piece just sort of fell right off? That's a good sign. That means our chicken is probably cooked, which is good. We want it to be cooked at this point. Our next step is going to be reducing the sauce and then adding the chicken back in so that it can get flavored with that now reduced sauce. So it is at this point fully cooked. You can eat it if you wanted to, but we want to really like bring this up to another level. I'm going to put the garlic back in there. We want that to reduce with the sauce. I'm doing my best to get the peppercorns off, but they like to get in everywhere. And that's okay. They'll still have some more time to simmer later, so before we really get into it. The smell is so good. It's vinegary. It's super savory with that soy sauce. The garlic, obviously. Oh my God. This is going to be great. We're eating well today, guys. I forgot how many we put in here. This is awesome. So again, normally you wouldn't be doing a triple batch of this, and this would be a little bit easier. It would be a lot less unwieldy, but hey, you know, we're making it work. So my hope, and I'm not going to push it too hard, my hope is to reduce this by about half, but I know the limitations of this cooker, so I don't think we're going to get there. But that would be what I would want to do if we had the time. But I just don't think this is going to get to the rolling boil that I would normally be able to get. So I think it's going to reduce, but I don't think it's going to reduce as much as we want. But its sauce is still going to be delicious, so I'm not too worried about that. I think I'm just going to serve it with a little bit more of a sort of watery sauce. It'll still be much more tasty than it is at this current moment right now. There we go. I knew there was a little piece in there. And it's okay if you don't get all the chicken. The chicken that gets left in there just is going to keep adding flavor to that sauce. Oh, there we go. That's the one I was feeling. Perfect. All right, so let's crank this boil up. That's pretty good. It's a decent boil. Could be better, but it's not bad. And we're not going to need that anymore, actually. All right, awesome. Back to cutting mango. Cutting mango. So again, like ice cream, it's absolutely delicious. We used to have to make ice cream sandwiches at one of the places I worked at, and occasionally people would ask for us to like cut them in half so they could split them, and it was my favorite job because it just cutting ice cream it just feels so good. I can't describe it. If you get a chance, go home, make an ice cream sandwich, go buy an ice cream sandwich, go home and just cut it in half, and you'll know what I'm talking about. There's nothing else like it. Like nothing has the same sort of resistance, but also give. It's just, it's so cool. It feels very safe because there's not a lot of slipping. Like it kind of grabs your knife, so you're never like worried. Oh, I'm gonna slip to this side, that side. Like when I'm cutting tomatoes, I'm constantly like, this is dangerous. But cutting frozen things is always really, really fun. Specifically frozen fruits. Frozen meats are a little bit different, but that is actually something that's really useful if you're ever making like a carpaccio or a tartare. You generally want to freeze your meat a little bit beforehand. So you take the piece of tuna or the piece of steak and you put it in the freezer, not till it's solid, but till it's just almost completely frozen. And you take it out and it's going to cut a lot better. All those muscle fibers are going to be frozen. The water in there is going to be solid. And so instead of starting to fight the fibers, you're going to be able to easily cut through them because they're more brittle. So really, really useful technique, particularly with tuna. That's a pretty soft fish. You can really kind of just like beat the meat up and make it, you're almost turning it into like a paste like you do for like a spicy tuna roll. But if you're doing a tartare, you don't want it to have the same mouthfeel as a spicy tuna. You want people to be able to sort of like taste and feel the tuna. So freezing it a little bit beforehand is a really great idea to do that. This is gonna be delicious. All right, get this in there. And just, I don't know if you saw, I'm kind of like scooping with my knife. I'm not scraping with my knife. You generally don't want to scrape with your knife. You can scrape with the back of your knife, no problem. But if you're using the front of your knife, you kind of want to scoop because this cutting board will absolutely dull even the sharpest knife. No problem. All right, let's get this stirred up and give it a good taste. Looks amazing. And again, all I put in here was lime juice and fish sauce as far as seasoning. The rest is coming just from the vegetables themselves, the onions, and the mango and tomato. That's doing pretty good. That's decent evaporation. What I really want is the whole pot to be boiling, just like a big, thick plume of white. But we're limited to what we've got here at the library. Just if you do cook this at home, really crank it up. Just let it go crazy. You're trying to get moisture out of it and condensing those flavors. And we're doing that. We're just not doing it as fast as it would be nice to. Oh yeah. So yeah, a little bit more mango probably would have been fine in here, but I think this is going to be acceptable. It's really just to be like a little bit of a bright flavor to try to have against this very, very intense. That's perfect. Just a little bit of that fish sauce in the background. For those of you who haven't had it, you might not even notice it's in there, which is nice. It's just going to taste good. That's right, I was going to use that for the salsa. Now I'm going to use this. And we're just going to go ahead and put that out of our way for now. We'll serve that up when we get around to serving. All right, so we're on to fried rice. Go ahead and get that hot right now because I know it's going to take a while to heat up. So we're heading back in for our garlic. We're going to slice up our biggest ones here, and then we're going to just crush the rest of them into a paste, basically. And I think this is probably like 3 batches, so I'm going to do 4 garlics each. And so for slicing your garlic, you just want to kind of put them however they rest flat as best as possible. Bring them all together and then just do some nice slices. Sliced garlic like this is something you'll often see in a lot of Italian cooking. And the reason they do this is so you can add the flavor. But if you don't like garlic, you can pick it out. We're doing it in this situation so that there are big chunks of garlic that you have to eat because you're not going to pick it out of rice very easily. But in like an Italian like pasta sauce or something, you'll see big chunks of garlic like this on purpose so that you can pick them out while you're eating. It's a lot harder to do with rice, but they are still pick outable. We're going to put a bunch of crushed, tastes and consumption. But in this situation, we're doing this to increase surface area. We are going to cook this rice and get it kind of crispy and brown on the edges. And so slicing like this is going to give us as much more surface area to get crispy. Whereas if we just put this whole thing in there, there's only so much we can brown.
Those have had the nubs that we take off usually taken out already?
Yeah. So these were the peel garlic. There's like little tiny ones, but the actual like hard part that is attached to the root has been removed. Yeah, exactly. They're fairly soft, and generally when you get peeled garlic, you're going to run into that situation. It's worth taking a peek and just seeing if any of them have something that's a little bit harder. But generally, you're running to that with there's a particular type of storage garlic that we grow here on the island that has like a really hard hard stem. I think it's literally called hard stem garlic, and that one has the root end is like super hard. You do want to generally cut that off. But for these, this is I think a specific brand or type of garlic that is designed to have a softer body so that it's easier to work. So this is the stuff we're gonna just go ahead and chop up, and I am gonna just mix this into the rice after I dice it up. Put a little bit of oil in there and the garlic. I'm just running over this pretty roughly here for the first time. We'll go ahead and come back. I'm used to, in my own personal life, just eating massive chunks of garlic in all my food. So it's not often that I like actually bother dicing my garlic. I'll like stop there. I'm like, we're good. But for this dish, it's very important that we get as small as possible on this garlic. And the reason we want it small is so that we can get that flavor all throughout the rice. We actually want the garlic, if possible, smaller than the rice by the time we're done here. And we'll see what we can do. Kind of handicap myself by making these little piles. Let's get them out of the way so we can really spread out here. If you do have a garlic press at home, this would be a decent time to use it. You can obviously buy garlic that's really, really tiny chopped as well. Nothing wrong with that. I do feel that those tend to have a little bit extra water in them. So it might not be a bad idea to use that garlic for in the bowl. But I would try and use fresh garlic for the actual crisping. Because it's just not going to get brown as easily if it's not fresh garlic. That extra water in there really does a lot to sort of work against you when you're going for browning. It's good. Our sauce is going pretty good. It's not bad. I'll take it. That's getting hot too. We're in a good place. Alright, we're going to call that good enough. I'm going to go ahead and bring our rice over here. And we're just putting all that raw garlic right in the rice. This is just to make sure that all the rice is seasoned and tasty. And even if you don't get a piece of garlic, you'll still have garlic in your rice. I realize I'm going to need that, so we're going to put a little bit of salt in here as well. Just this is our one chance to sort of season this rice. I did not season it when I was cooking it. And I would normally put some black pepper in here, but I know for a fact that our black pepper grinder is absolutely horrible, so I'm not going to bother. And then just a touch of oil. Just a little bit. The rest we're going to use to cook with. I might as well put that in there now. Putting the oil in the rice I don't think is actually in the recipe now that I'm realizing. But yeah, just salt and pepper. But I like to put a little bit in there. Just because I don't have, like if I'm at home, I'm going to have a little bit bigger pan. And so I just want to make sure that all my rice doesn't stick to this pan because I'm doing big batches. If a little bit of rice sticks at home, you know, it's not the end of the world. But here, since I'm doing batches, I really want to make sure I have a nice control over them not sticking. So a little of rice on the rice is going to really help with that. A little bit of oil rather on the rice is going to really help with that. I'm making a mess. I'm really good at it. All right, let's get this garlic in there. This pan is hot. And I'm basically just making garlic oil. I'm sort of seasoning that oil. I'm browning up my garlic. You can see the edges of the garlic are starting to get brown. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Nope, that's not the right one. Oh well, I guess we're using this one. I like, personally, I have a flat wooden spatula, and I really like that a lot for tasks like this, but a round one will work just fine. So that's pretty much what we're looking for. We're looking to get a nice little brown on the garlic. We don't want to go too far because we don't want it to burn. That's pretty much what we want right there. We're going to go ahead and take this off, add a whole bunch of our rice. Going for about a third of it, I would say. I'm going to try and find that flat spatula because it's going to work really good for scraping the bottom. Where did you go? Somebody got in here and cleaned. And they did a great job of cleaning, but I don't know where anything is anymore. That'll work. Okay, so now that I have this, I just want to stir this once. Part of the reason why I'm stirring this is to get that garlic off the bottom of the pan. I don't want to leave it there where it can burn. But I'm also trying to get that garlic oil that I just made to coat this rice. And once we get it coated, we're just going to go ahead and let it sit for a bit and hopefully get some nice browning. We are limited a little bit by our stove here, so we probably won't get tons of browning, but we are going to get some nice flavor development, I think. Just cooking the rice again and heating it back up again is really going to go a long way. You can see those little bits of brown garlic are starting to poke their heads out, which is exactly what we want, and I'm going to make a mess. I don't know how to do anything else with rice. That's nice and stirred up. We're just going to spread it out get as much contact with the pan as possible, and that includes the sides of the pan as well. And then just let it kind of hang out. I'm just gonna do a little cleaning. I'm bringing these cilantro stems home, that's how much I love them. No waste in my kitchen if I can help it. They'd go really good in pretty much anything. Like, you could even chop them up and put them in with the fried rice. I think they'd be delicious in there. But we're not doing that today. So those are going home, and they'll probably end up in some fried rice for me later. All right, great. I think, is this heat sensitive? I don't know if I should put it on this. I'm going to use this to put my rice on when it's cooked, and then we'll transfer it back into this bowl. This will be back here. We're getting close, guys. We're getting close. So the recipe does say to reduce the sauce and then cook the chicken for another 20 minutes in the sauce. I don't want to make you guys wait for that. We don't really have to worry about that. We're going to serve it with the sauce, so I think it's going to be fine. But generally, you'd want to do that if you were doing a smaller batch. It's going to really concentrate the chicken flavors. It's going to really like force that new reduced sauce into here. But we're on a time, not limit, but we're timing it here. So we're just going to put the chicken back in. I think this is reduced enough for me. I don't think I'm going to get much more reduction, to at least a point that sort of makes sense. So I'm going to put the chicken back in there because I do want it to absorb as much flavor as possible. But we took it out for a bit. We did get some reduction. I probably got about like a centimeter reduction, which is good. Again, I wanted more, but I just I can't get a hard boil on this. So for me, I want as much flavor as possible in that chicken, and the best way to do that is going to be to just put this back in. What I probably should have done, and I'm realizing now, is not put as much water in there when we were at that stage of the cooking process. But I wanted to make sure I had enough liquid in the pot to cover the chicken. So it's kind of like a little give and take of like what's going to be best for my cooking process versus what's going to be best for my flavor. And I think nobody's going to be sad about how this tastes, even though I didn't let it reduce completely. So we're going to be okay. But just keep in mind when you're cooking at home and you have that extra time, let it go, let it reduce, let it get soft, thicker and more like a sauce. So this has been sitting for a bit. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little scrape. Let's see. Yeah, we got some browning. Let's go. Okay. And I think if I had like 2 large burners here, it probably would have worked out. But again, we're working with our limitations. I like you, stove. I'm not talking about you, I promise. Okay, so we did that once. We're just going to do that one more time, and then we'll jump on to the next batch of rice. And while that third batch is cooking, I'm gonna try and start some serving. I'm just gonna check this sauce, make sure we're still tasting pretty good. Oh yeah, not too shabby. Okay, we're doing good. Back to cleanup time. If anybody has any questions while I start sort of cleaning up my space, you just let me know. I'm going to leave the onions out here with the cilantro. If you do want to put any on top, they'll be nice and tasty. Bay leaves we don't need.
Do bay leaves really do anything?
Oh yeah. So the best way, bays are one of those weird things where like you put it in there and you're like, what did this do? You know? And it's a interesting flavor because it doesn't it's not something you can really taste per se, but the best way that I can we usually interact with bay leaves as a dried product, right? And so they're usually used in stocks like this to add flavor, and it's not something you ever notice until it's not there. But for me, the thing that made me realize what bay tastes like and be able to sort of find it in a dish and go, oh, there's bay in that dish, is when I was in New Orleans. It grows wild. There's the bay leaf. The bay leaf itself is what you make gumbo filet out of. So you grind it up, and it's actually a thickening agent. And so you take the bay, Now I think it's bay. It's a specific type of bay that I think grows there that they grind up into the filet. Don't quote me on that. I'm having like a brain being like, you're saying something that's not true. But I'm not positive if I'm even wrong. I just think it's maybe a specific type of bay that's down there that they use for the filet. That being said, you can get fresh leaves, which is an entirely different experience, and you can nibble on them and you start to taste it. And it doesn't really, it's not like cilantro where it's like it's strong, but it just tastes good. Thyme is a herb that I put in a lot of things, and thyme does have a flavor, so it's not a great sort of analogy, but thyme is a thing that I put in everything, and I only notice when it's not there, and bay is sort of in that same situation. It just tastes kind of good, and so it like adds something that is almost not really like quantifiable, but is, I think, important. And in this dish especially, we're putting a decent amount in there. You know, sometimes like if you're making a soup this big and it says put 1 bay leaf in, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But we put like 8 in there, so it makes a little more sense in that situation. I almost feel like I should have just left the chicken in the whole time at this point, but we're cool. We're making it work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop this off and start our next batch. Yeah.
Why is it some recipes when they say put a bay leaf in and then they say take it out?
Because they're sharp. That was fun. Popped ice. Because they're sharp. So if you don't cook the bay leaf for a really, really long time, it's still pretty sharp. And this one's actually soft at this point, which is nice. If you get a bay leaf, give it a little bite and try it. It has a real legitimate taste. But because they're sharp, that's the answer. You don't want to get one of those in your mouth and cut you up. But you can eat them. They're delicious. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. As far as like a culinary thing, they're just really fibrous because they've been dried. But the fresh ones are much more pliable, much more edible, which I really like. Yeah, next time you get a bay leaf in your soup or something like that, it's supposed to be like getting the baby in the Mardi Gras cake. You know, you're the one that's got to make dinner next. But just give it a taste. Don't tell anyone. Then you'll be like, oh, I wonder who got the bay leaf. You know? Eat the evidence. Okay, perfect. So this cast iron itself has actually gotten pretty hot, so I think I'm going to move it over to the other side and just try and get this this chicken boiling again, because we're having some temperature control issues over here. All right, switch time. I really want to at least bring this back up to a boil before I serve it to you guys. And I'm trying to think, like, if I could describe like bay, it's kind of like, it's got like a almost piney taste, but not how can I describe this? Like pine, when you taste pine, like it's sort of perfumey and almost a little bit bitter and kind of overwhelming. It like comes up the back of your throat into your nose. Bay is like that same, like it triggers the same response in my brain, but I don't get that like perfume bitterness up the back. I just get that like this came from a tree vibe. If that makes any sense to you. It's piney in the way that like your brain is like, this is weird, what are you doing here? But that's what kind of makes it exciting. It like turns your taste buds on. It makes your taste buds inquisitive. Like, what is happening? I need to figure this out without adding like any bitterness like you would get from like an actual pine with all the weird, you know, pine oils in there. Okay, let's see. This was for chicken. We're not going to use that for chicken anymore. Getting our serving stuff together. Yeah.
I feel like now the whole range is plastic, you know, cutting boards because it's part of those. Like,
Oh, for sure.
And what about like selling the knives? Like you should be using wood cutting boards. So it's interesting that you said they have the different colored. I'm assuming the plastic.
Yeah, and you can thank the National Safety Foundation and food inspectors everywhere for color-coded cutting boards. In a commercial kitchen, if your cutting board gets old, you throw it away. You're supposed to, and get a new one. In a home kitchen, we are not made of money, you know. So like using a wood cutting board for years is gonna be okay. Nobody's gonna come into your house and go, "You're cooking wrong. You're gonna make yourself sick." But it's just nice to know, like, you know, in a commercial kitchen, that's how we have to operate, and so that's how we do operate. But yeah, you're right. I think you know, people have even been starting to use metal cutting boards, and again, a metal cutting board is a sort of awkward experience. If your metal cutting board is harder than your knife, then your knife is going to get dull faster, but that's easy enough to fix. If your metal cutting board is softer than your knife, which is very possible if you're using incredibly hard steels, then you're going to end up with metal in your food instead. So you got to kind of like toe the line and know what you're using essentially. Like you can already see here, there's plenty of gashes in this, and there's a non-zero chance that there's going to be some form of plastic in all the food that I've made here at this library, but it's small amounts. There's not much you can do about it. If I cut on wood, there'd be wood in your food too. Granted, wood is much more edible than plastic, but you know, it's yeah, oh yeah. I didn't think you were like concerned. It's more like, this is something I've thought about a lot. In a kitchen, you know, when you're cutting on your board and you make a really deep cut, you're like, crap. Like, one of the things they teach us in food safety courses is not only contaminants that are like bacteria and viral, but physical contaminants, things like shaves of metal from opening a can, or pieces of plastic from cutting on a cutting board. They're a very, very real concern. They can cause just as much problems as salmonella or whatever. Like, if I cut on a board with chicken and then I do a fresh salsa, if that chicken was safe, it's fine. Like, it's not going to matter. It's all about risk control, basically. All food safety is really just risk control. But there's just, you're right that, you know, there's no great solution for cutting boards. Personally, I use a plastic cutting board, but I also have a wood cutting board. I have both, and that way I can use it depending on what I'm doing. I pretty much never cut meat on my wood cutting board, but there are like Chinese chefs that have their big wood block, and they're sitting there like chopping away, making minced meat on their wood block, and then they go cut veggies on it later. But it's all sort of a mentality. It's a cultural thing in some places. It's a health food safety thing in some places. If at the end of the day, if you're aware that you're doing something dangerous, you can make steps to be less dangerous about it. So, yeah, I guess there's no good answer to that. There's no great cutting board, because the thing you're using to cut on it is usually really sharp and hard, so it doesn't matter what it's made out of. And if the cutting board's durable enough, then it's going to mess up your knife. So there's like, which one do I want? And there's no good answer to that.
Chris?
Yes?
What about bamboo boards?
That's essentially wood. Same situation, yeah. Generally, bamboo boards are going to be the long way on the fiber, so you have less chance of like cutting in and having chips come off. But it's still wood, so it's still going to be porous and absorb things like meat, fat, juices and stuff. But in general, you can sanitize anything. The problem with wood is that because it's porous, that bacteria or that contaminant can get below the surface that you can actually buff off. And then it just becomes a matter of like, if like 12 years down the line you finally chip into your board, that salmonella that's been sitting there for ages comes back up to bite you, you know. Again, it's all risk assessment. Most food safety is designed to appease the insurance companies that protect these restaurants and the food safety. Almost every type of cooking that you do is going to be safe for you. If you know where your ingredients come from and you treat them well, you should be fine. There are some things I would avoid doing, like don't leave your chicken out for a week and then go heat it up to like barely hot. Like, that's going to be bad news for you. If you're going to leave it out for a week, at least cook it to 160. Like, at least get it to the point where you're killing the bacteria that's alive on it, because there is bacteria alive on it. Again, it's just a matter of personal preference. And in general, people who eat more dangerous food tend to have immune systems that can handle more dangerous food. If you eat in a very clean environment where all of your food is handled properly, you're going to maybe go to a country that doesn't handle their food the same way and have a hard time. But if you're eating, you know, off the same cutting board where you cut raw chicken all the time, your body's going to be better prepared for that when the time comes. So I'm not saying go do it to prepare. I'm just saying it's not like the end of the world. You know, a little food sickness is never fun, but it always sort of prepares us for the next time. All right, cool. I'm going to start serving, I think. I'm going to get this last rice on. I think this is now hot enough. I'm going to sort of switch them back. I just didn't want to have it. Again, like I was saying, you really want to always make sure you heat things back up when you are heating them back up. So I'm gonna get our next batch of rice going, and then I'm gonna start doing some serving here. Once this is empty, I can start making things happen. Let's see, let's prepare myself. We're gonna want tongs and ladle for chicken. We're gonna want rice scoop for rice. Don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. I hope it's good. I've never made this before, and we didn't take as much time as I would have liked to reduce the sauce. So if the flavor doesn't feel as intense to you as I may have described, that's probably what's going on. But I'm going to make sure everybody gets a little spoonful of the sauce as well, so that'll help with the rice to kind of like bring it all together. So, all right, this guy's here. What's that, sorry? I did, yeah. That's what I was talking about, the metal cutting board. It's good. It works great for my my really hard knives. But even that, because it's my hard knives are so hard, I can like see grooves. But I haven't like shaved anything off yet. I'm just kind of like more denting it than anything else. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember watching my grandma cut tomatoes on a glass cutting board. I guess if there's like a perfect cutting board, glass might be it, because it's hard. But it is going to maybe dull your knife a little bit, but you can always just sharpen in your knife again. You don't have to worry. If you get glass in your food, you're going to know if you're using a glass cutting board. That thing's going to break. Okay, get on in there, rice. Let's bring this over here. Beautiful. Forgot to try the rice. That'll do. Alright. So we got rice. We got salsa. We got bowls. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 13. Perfect. Okay, there's our rice. Let's go for some chicken. Whoopsies. Oh no, one of my pieces of garlic burnt. That's okay. This is one of the things when you're cooking with cast iron, it'll like be fine, you'll be like, oh, you're not really hot enough, and then all of a sudden it like gets past that point where the pan has now become as hot as the stove, and it goes wild. That's okay, it's just a little bit of garlic, nothing's gonna hurt. When you burn garlic, it gets a little bit bitter. Some people actually like that flavor. There's like a burnt garlic, you can just like burn garlic on purpose, just to get that flavor. It's not so bad. It is definitely a little bitter though, but some people really like bitter as a flavor. Salt does a lot to sort of help with that if you do end up burning something, salt can always be used to sort of counteract it. All right, so as usual, we're going to start with the people in the back, and then you can come on up one at a time. We should be able to get this all done and out and in your hands pretty quickly. I gave you spoons. This chicken should fall apart no problem with just a spoon. But if you do need a fork, just let me know. I will get you one. Come on. Here, I'm just going to get a different piece. All right, we're just going to do a little bit of a spoon of this sauce for everyone. Perfect. And some salsa.
Thank you. I love this bowl.
Yeah, isn't it awesome?
Oh,
That's thanks to the friends, so.
really? Oh, good. That I've been watching the bowl more than I'm sorry.
Nothing wrong with that. I love a good bowl.
Do you want me to just grab this now?
Yeah, you can grab it if you're here. Yep. I'm just about to push them out.
I mean, there's a line that's.
Yeah, you
what
got
I'm
it.
saying.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ellie.
Great. Okay.
Perfect. I probably should have tried some of this before I gave it to you, but it's fine. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
24 guinea pigs, guys.
Not as good as when my coworker makes it, but it's still pretty good.
May I ask you where you got the chicken?
I just got it from Stop and Shop.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chris.
Of course.
The smell is exquisite.
Yeah, the garlic bread really helps a lot, right? I will say, yeah, I think that extra 20 minutes on the sauce definitely would have made a big difference, guys, but I think it's still pretty dang good, so. Yeah, they definitely are. I'm gonna get you some salsa. Just hang on for just a bit. I got you. Don't you worry.
Great, Chris.
Thanks. I think it tastes pretty good. I think it definitely is would have been better, like I said, with a little bit more reduced time for the sauce. But you know, we're making it work. Come on. There we go. One more big piece. Okay, a little bit of sauce. And a little bit of salsa.
up the color.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this is really all about. It's kind of like in a dish that's very, very brown, this helps to kind of bring a little bit of fun into it. There's not much you can do about the color of this dish. It's just always brown. It's meant to be brown. It's not really a dish that is designed for sort of fun. It is a dish that is practical and delicious. There you go. Have at it. And we're going for 9. This one can go. Perfect.
This is cilantro, right?
Yeah, yep.
I know that in the photo it was more glazed looking. Is
Yeah.
that because of reduction?
Well, we didn't take that. We just got that. We have to use like our free use photos. So
Oh,
that
okay.
was actually barbecue chicken.
That's what it, yeah, that's it. Whoa, that's a whole
That's the
different
closest thing we could find. Nobody had chicken adobo. The sauce does get thicker, but it doesn't get that thick. You could thicken it that much if you wanted to.
Just bring it down.
Yeah, it would just take you like probably thicken it for almost like an hour at that point. But you could 100% thicken it if you wanted to. It would be delicious like that. It'd be really intense, but it would be great. But yeah, no, that was unfortunately just a stock photo. That's all we had available. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, this photo isn't really going to do it justice, but.
What's that mean?
Yeah, get some more soy sauce on there? Don't let me stop you. I put it out there on purpose, so.
Oh, I don't want any of those. I don't want any sauce.
Oh, okay, great. I'll get you one without salsa.
I'm not a fish sauce fan.
Oh, got you. Understood.
That's why I looked at this to make sure I didn't have.
Yeah.
This may not be the wrong thing.
So she's doing
Just some soy sauce.
Soy sauce. I actually that's why I write has soy sauce in it. That's why.
Yeah. It's a good move.
Take some of that sauce from the pan.
Oh yeah, for sure. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
I've been doing a little spoon of sauce on top of everyone.
You think the cilantro would be good on the chicken?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yep, 100%. Especially if you're not having the salsa, it'll be a good little kick.
I don't like fish sauce. Definitely not a fan.
All right, let's get some sauce out here now.
Good, that's good.
Perfect. I think that one needs a little more chicken.
I like sauce. Did you have sauce?
Yeah, I can put some more on there too if you're interested. I did put some sauce on there, but I'll put a little more on. Okay. Is it good? You guys like it? Oh, good. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I was definitely a little worried about the reducing process, but. There you go, my friend. That one's got quite a lot of chicken if you're interested in a little extra. I did put sauce on. You want some more? You can definitely have some more. Oh shoot, I put too much, I think.
Oh, no.
It's a soup now, Skip. It's a soup. What did I do? Alright, did everybody get one? I might eat one of these just to give it a try. Yeah, of course. Happy I could provide.
You did put sauce in, right?
Yes, I did. What's that? Yep, I'm all set through. Yeah, I think I got 3 more left. I think. Yeah, I'm doing one that one of my D&D kids suggested, which is awesome. And then we're going back into the realm of Asian food, I think. Yeah, what am I doing for the last one? I think a soup, which I haven't done yet. So, yep, should be pretty good. Yeah, me too. Has anybody had one of the peppercorns yet and enjoyed it? It's like one of my favorite things ever. I feel like it's like wrong, you know, like what am I doing?
To bite into a peppercorn? Well, maybe I'll get lucky.
And then these are garlics. Wait, this is exciting.
Okay, this turned out okay. I'm happy.
Oh, good.
I was definitely worried about the sauce reducing, but
Now, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
oh, the salsa really works together with it.
I love this idea of the salsa.
Yeah, that's how it's classically served. So
I forgot the sauce. Which is unbelievably good.
now that I've taken a bite, my worries are gone. It's not as good as Caroline makes it, but it's still really good. Skip, I'm going to go ahead and add the cilantro into the salsa, okay, now that you got some, right? So, just for the staff, I know they all like cilantro, so.
Did you anticipate?
No, I didn't, but this is what I was talking about. Yep. That's basically exactly what we did. That's really cool. I didn't know that was happening. It's so cool.
It's like, wait a minute. That's what the cooking class is.
It was really good timing. This is like the season for it because you're getting through the winter. You've got maybe you're going through things are starting to at least because again it's Filipino, so like the seasons are. I think this is when things are starting to like come back, and maybe you have a couple spring chickens, so you got to get rid of your old ones or whatever it happens to be. But
And the way you did it with, the chicken prep is relatively easy because they're boned and they're skinned.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mangoes frozen in a bag. Stop and shop, one-stop shop.
I tried to make it as simple as possible, but then we can make it more complex if we want to,
Now, all I have to do is get my tax stuff organized and I'm making this.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, let me bring that out. Okay guys, just while you're eating, I just wanted to say goodbye and thank you. Thank you everybody for coming to another Chef Look Cooks. It turned out pretty good, I gotta say. I will say, if you reduce the sauce for an extra 20 minutes, it is even better. I highly suggest if you try this at home, take that extra time. The person who suggested this has made it for me before, and it's good, but it's even better when they make it. So I just want to say thank you all for coming to Chef Look Cooks. You can always see this up on the Edgartown Library YouTube if you want to. And then make sure to sign up for the newsletter if you're not already, so you can get first news about what we're doing next month. As per usual, sign-ups for this program are a week before, not on the first of the month like most of our programs. Next month should be really fun. It's actually a food that was suggested by one of my D&D kids. So it's a little bit fun. It's really simple. But we're going to be using the oven, which I almost never do in here. And you're going to get to learn one of my favorite sauces that I developed for one of my original kitchen jobs. It's a pasta sauce. We're not eating pasta, but it's a pasta sauce that is amazing. I make it yearly and keep it in my canned goods section. It's great for making pizza, great for putting on pasta. It's basically just like a tomato mother sauce, and it's got some really interesting ingredients that some of you may have never used before. So I hope to see you guys all next month. Thanks for coming.